G'day, I'm Hannah Maloney from Good Life Permaculture, coming to you from Nipaluna Lutruwita in Hobart, Tasmania. Today I'm going to show you around my little goat system, which is a big part of my life and a significant part of our property as well. We've got beautiful Jilly here and Gertie's over the other way, who are our two milking goats who I milk every morning. And they really are ready for their brekkie, so let's get cracking. Hello. So both our goats have their own feeding station, which is really important because they'll try to steal each other's food if it's not contained in their own spaces. So you'll see they've got this headlock up here, and that keeps them in there. It's obviously really loose so they can move around within that space and get all the food. And then they've got a feeding bucket, which, while I thought it was a bit expensive to buy, I've never regretted it because it's really deep. They can't push food out and spill it and waste it. And it's obvious, just so great. So getting the right equipment can be really, really useful and very worthwhile. Okay, we feed our goats every morning and evening, and we feed them a couple of different things. So it's a very consistent diet of mixed chaff, which is oat and lucerne grass offcuts, and it's quite coarse because that's good for the goats. And then we also have some rolled or steamed barley, which is like their favourite thing ever. But you see, we store them in these big green 44-gallon drums, which are rodent-proof. And occasionally a mouse will be able to drop down there, we just fish it out. But it's a really nice contained way to store all the food. And you can see, this is what the chaff looks like. So this looks like grass. I love it. And it's really, obviously nutritious for them as well. And then I'll show you what the barley looks like. Fun fact, one time Anton, my partner, was making a soup and he wanted some barley. We had run out inside. He's like, oh, maybe I'll just try the goat's barley. And I can speak from personal experience, don't try it. It was so hard. It was like, awesome for goats, not great for us. This is darling Gertie. So Gertie's well into her 4th year of being milked, which is unusual. We hadn't planned it like that. We always assumed that after 1 to 2 years we would rest her because usually that's when their milk naturally dries up. But she's so healthy and her milk has never reduced at all. So we keep milking her, and of course we keep spoiling her. Make sure she has the best food, all the good things, because that's exactly what she deserves. But yeah, milking. So we're really safe here, but also really relaxed around hygiene. So we make sure that, we give her a good brush, get any straw or off her belly before we put the milk bucket down. And we don't wash her udder because we want to have all that healthy bacteria stay there for her own health. And so we just make sure it's brushed off. If for some reason she's been playing outside and it's been raining and there's mud on there, of course we wash it down. But otherwise, we just give it a quick brush and start milking. And when we start milking, I do a few squirts just onto the milking stand. The chooks like to drink it. What I'm doing there is I'm clearing the ducts to make sure there's no dust there. And also I pay good attention to make sure the colour of the milk is bright white and that there's no discoloration, because that's an indicator of bad health. It's never happened, but I check every day just to make sure. Because we always make sure that we can be on top of goat health. Goats are a tricky one because there's not as much known about them as other livestock animals, and if they get sick they can actually go downhill really, really quickly. Sorry, Gertie doesn't like the chook pecking. So we're really, really attentive to their health and well-being. I get lots of emails and messages going, hey, how do you actually milk, Hannah? And look, honestly, you just got to have a crack and feel your way and get a good teacher to help you as well. But if my finger was a teat, the general idea is that when you're milking, you clamp the teat at the very top, so it's a tight squeeze, and then you squeeze the rest of your fingers down. So clamp and squeeze, clamp and squeeze. After each squeeze, you release so the teat can refill from the udder above it. And you go clamp and squeeze, clamp and squeeze. And anybody who's ever chest or breastfed a baby will know that you can be quite firm with the udder. Like it does not hurt at all, but imagine a baby on your chest. They're really going for it. So we're being quite firm. If you really light, nothing will happen. And so clamp and squeeze. It's really important in the little shed that we make sure we always have dry straw down, and because we have chickens in here as well, they will often scratch it out, which is what's been happening recently. So I always have at least 1 or 2 bales in the back of the shed. I can just dump some lovely stuff here as needed. The other thing that we have in here is what's called a mineral lick or a block. And it's a big, hard, heavy block that just sits here, and you can see they've been gnawing and licking at it over the years. It's been here for 4 years. They only lick it or nibble it when they're looking for different minerals. So it has like lots of copper in there and lots of other different things. And we just make it available, as well as a really yummy, diverse food and other fresh fodder that we cut for them daily as well. Now, having goats is a huge commitment. It's not for everybody, and having goats on a small property, even huger commitment. And one of the big things that people often don't realise they have to do is they have to cut their toenails. If you don't, they'll just keep growing and growing and can become problematic with their health, because poo and mud and dirt can get in there and fester. So it's a really important thing that you're on top of that. When we were learning how to do it, I just go onto YouTube. You see lots of people just picking the calm feet up and cutting them really easily. It's not like that. I don't know how people do that. It's a 2-person job here, and we usually do it when they're feeding, so they're happy. But we still need 1 person holding and calming the goat, and then 1 person cutting the toenails. They're incredibly tough, like so tough. So that's a really important thing. Now in our garden we grow a lot of food for us, but also for our animals, including this tree lucerne shrub up here, which is also called Takasasti. Now this is actually a weed in our region, so it's weird that we would have it here, but when we bought our property there was literally thousands of them. We got rid of most of them, just pulled them out, but we kept half a dozen or so specifically for the goats because it's incredibly nutritious for them. And so I keep them very, very low, and one day they'll actually be removed completely once these almond trees on either side grow up and get bigger and bigger. Yeah, and they also love globe artichoke leaves, which is lucky because they're so prolific. They produce so much leaf matter, it can become a little bit overwhelming. We've got lots of globe artichoke plants, but these are beautiful. The goats love them, so I'll be giving them some today. So as well as the globe artichoke leaves, I've got a few other things in here as well. So we've got some flowering Takasasti, that's the tree lucerne bush. That was on my neighbour's property. Usually I don't let it flower, but the goats do love it, which is nice. And I've also got some ornamental Photinia here, which is another weed on a different side of our property, which I've left to help act as a windbreak, but mostly I just cut it for the girls, the goats just love it. Another one I haven't got in here, which I often do, is Cotoneaster, another weed. Goats love weeds. And that's a really important thing because it's one of the key functions they play in our gardens. They help manage them. We're never going to be able to get rid of some of these weeds here because their seed bank is naturalised in our valley, so they're always going to be popping up for many, many years to come. And as I mentioned, we've actually kept a few very, very old ones which were already here when we moved in as a windbreak, but also as a valuable food source for the goats. Good. You'll notice I've popped them in this little funny, weird structure thing. It's nothing fancy, but it plays a very important role of keeping the food off the ground. Goats are actually naturally browsers, which means they like to reach up and eat bushes and trees. Sure, they'll definitely love to have a bit of a graze and pasture, but they're meant to actually eat more shrubs and trees than grass. So if I dump this on the ground, they'd eat a little bit of it, but they wouldn't eat all of it because they want to go up, yeah? So we put it in a structure like this, and then that means they can walk around, they climb on top and eat the whole lot over the course of the day, which is wonderful. So the goat run, you might be noticing, is very, very compact. It means that you have to work pretty hard to keep these girls happy. It's something that I'm really, really stoked to do because I work from home, I look at them every day. Like, it's my idea of a good time just to come and hang out and scratch their bums, so it's no problems. But a few things that we do to make sure they're happy is that we feed them lots and lots of diverse foods as well. They've got good shelter, but also what I'm standing on is what you can call a deep litter. So it's not just muddy, bare earth. It's actually got around a 20 centimetre layer of coarse wood chips. Now, we're at the end of winter here at the moment, which is our wettest season, so it's getting nice and soggy and damp. In springtime, I'll replace this all with some fresh wood chips on top. It means that it makes sure it absorbs all the manure and the rain, and eventually becomes great compost that goes back onto our food gardens. So down here is the deep litter, and so you'll see that beautiful wood chips and poo and moisture is coming along very nicely. We also got some people to help us build this goat deck that I'm standing on, so they can come up this little stairway up here and hang out and sunbake. Because it's such a small area, I wanted to give them as many interesting places as possible to relax in, and usually I spend all day up here when they're not eating, sunbaking and watching me in my office, which is just on the other side of the garden. It's a really beautiful thing. Alright, so we've finished milking and we've brought everything back into the house, and now I just pop it away and make sure I put it into clean jars and into the fridge. And the way I sterilise my jars is with boiling water, so it's very, very simple. And I use glass jars because we used to have some big plastic tubs, but over the years they get tiny little scratches, and that's where little bacteria can sit in and potentially cause issues. And we did have a few issues in that it went off a bit quickly, so glass is the way to go. Yeah. And then we also have a funnel that makes life a bit easier, just to getting the milk in and not next to the jar, but in the jar. And a little sieve which picks up any loose hairs that may have floated off while milking as well. Some of you might be going, oh, shouldn't you pasteurise the milk? Fantastic question. We don't pasteurise our milk, we just have it raw, and we're not selling it, we're not providing it to other people, so it was no concern of any, I don't know, public regulations. And it's very healthy. Our goats are healthy, we store it very well in our fridge in clean containers. There's no risk at all, so we're very comfortable with doing that. If you would like to pasteurize your milk, no worries. You can do that by heating it up to around 72 degrees and letting it cool back down before you store it in your fridge. So that's your choice. Right, so the last thing to do is pop it in your fridge, and as you'll see, we've got a bit going on because we stockpile it and we'll make cheese once or twice a week, and so that's our storage down there. We also make things like yogurt, so this one here's got yogurt in there. That's kimchi, in case you're wondering. That means we make all our cheeses, which I'll put a link to how you can do that, I think up in the corner of this video, but also in the comments section below as well. And it's fantastic surplus that we can share with friends as well. Mm-hmm.